it was easier to tell my stories and be myself when I was training to be the best in the world at the sport. I wasn't buzzing for 4 weeks and thinking I'm the man. Yeah. I've just won Dancing on Ice. Let's make a load of money. Like, I'm more famous. Tell me that I'm going to win European, Commonwealth, World and Olympic medals, then that is the greatest career that I could ever wish for. I'd done it at 20. You inspire kids, the next generation, to do sport. Well, it's like, hold on a minute, I just wanted to be the best gymnast in the world. I didn't know about all it. The first thing that popped to my head, well, what excites me about my life now is getting birdies on a golf course.
This episode of the Sam Oldham podcast is sponsored by Turn, the only brand dedicated solely to men's gymnastics. Towards the end of my career, I started to work closely with a team at Turn to design custom uniforms that expressed who I was and where I came from, and they were always able to bring my ideas to life. For years, I wore uncomfortable gymnastics clothing until I started to wear Turn, whose uniforms are built with their attention to detail and quality in mind. Go check them out now at turn-gymnastics.com and enjoy the episode. Now, mate, it's just good to see you, man.
You too, brother.
It seems like it's been ages. It's literally been a few years.
I know, we see each other maybe once or twice a year, if that, and it never feels like we fully get to catch up, so I'm excited for this, mate. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, let's go. Let's chat.
And I think you're right, mate. I appreciate it because as I'm getting older, increasingly I'm finding that like time seems to get in the way. So I might see my friends like once every 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. So it's tough, man. So I really appreciate the fact that you've come down.
Pleasure. It's weird, isn't it? Like the people, particularly when you step away from things, when people come in and out of your life, and it's like who I was spending the majority of my time with 3 years ago, I never see.
Yeah.
Like, think about your coaches and your gym friends, like all you lot as a squad, we were together like at least 1 week a month. Yeah. And then it's like, I don't see you for 5 years. Yeah. It's strange how, but that's life, and it happens. People just coming out of your life, and I'm starting to recognise that and keep hold of the precious ones, you know what I mean?
You got to put time into relationships, don't you? Like,
for sure.
There's no other way around it. Like, you really have to, especially friendships, because friendships are harder when it's not like blood family ties. You have to really make the effort to, like, because all of my best friends live far away, I have to really put the effort into like, make sure we plan things, otherwise we just won't see each other because life just gets too busy.
I'm the same, mate.
Right, mate,
good to see you.
Let's start with the present. So just tell me about your life right now and what you're up to. Because it's literally been 2 years, so what's going on? What's your life like?
Still figuring out a life without gymnastics, which is, as you know, incredibly hard. But I feel like I'm sort of getting a little bit of a grasp on that, and I'll explain a little bit why. But yeah, this year's been a bit weird for me because I started it off doing a TV show called Dancing on Ice. And that took over my life for probably about 5 to 6 months. Like, people don't see the behind the scenes of it, but I was training and skating from October last year, and the show started in January. And then once the shows start, it's Sunday evening live on ITV every week for 9 weeks. Yeah. And your whole week is about learning a skating routine to perform live on telly every week. So that was just a different experience for me. Loved it in the sense of I got to experience like what we were obsessed with, and like that's performing and being in front of an audience and doing sport. It was extremely different from a pressure perspective, because when we always got to a gymnastics competition, you're prepared, or you'd like to think that you've done enough work in a gym and you've been doing this sport for 20 years, and as long as injuries aren't in the way, like you stand there and you can go, I'm gonna fucking smash this. Sorry, I'm allowed to swear, by the way, on this.
You do what you want, man.
And I've never skated, and anything could happen. You're on freaking ice, so I kind of loved that though. Like, it proper got you going. It's like anything could happen here. And I got good, and I won it, which was cool. Wasn't a big fan of the TV process. I think when you're a content creator, and you've done what I've done for years, and I'm in full control, and it's like I can film something in 20 minutes, edit it in 3 hours, and put it out to the internet within 24 hours. That whole teams of people and telling they have to have a storyline and they're trying to entertain the public. It was a little inauthentic to me, for me, but it was an experience. Great to win, and I think that process, I think in retirement, I was in search for that. Like, I think I need this bit, the competitiveness and the performing. It made me realise I don't need it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm glad I ticked the box again. But I was in such a better headspace. Like, I got the rush for the shouting Nile and Olivia, and I lifted the trophy, which was mad. Yeah. And it's just all the same stuff that I lived for. And then I sort of had this moment at the after party where my whole family there, my girlfriend were there, Luke and Ash were there, my manager was there. We were just having an amazing time, like smiling and laughing. It's like, I remember submitting my head going, this is me winning, like this bit. Like, I thought I needed to win in that sense where I got the overwhelming euphoria and like I'm a champion and my ego's like, yeah, I'm the fucking best. But I was like, nah, it's not, it's just this.
Yeah.
So that was a powerful experience. I think I'm so happy I did it for that reason. And I feel like since then, I've just been a bit more consistent with my well-being. Like, I can take a sit back and reflect on myself and how I'm behaving and what's probably a bad thing to do for the next few weeks. And I've just felt a lot happier since then. But in the meantime, just still doing my content, still building the businesses, the gymnastics clubs are super exciting. I'm sure we'll talk about them today. And I've just been chatting about it a little bit now before we started, but I'm obsessed with golf. So that's like that's the next thing. Me and my dad have started. They're doing a channel. We've got like 4 videos out on the internet, and when I think about where I want my life to be in 5 years, it's like, if I could be playing golf and earning money from that and got the businesses and that and have a super happy relationship and family life, then I'll be a happy man. So yeah, that's me. Not else much is new really.
You mentioned it then. How do you feel now? So what year did you retire?
2021, like officially. Like COVID time, middle of COVID, I stopped.
So like you're a few years removed from that now. How do you feel now about the sport of gymnastics? When you think about gymnastics, like how does it make you feel? And then how do you feel like now reflecting on your career?
That's a great question. I'm going to be really honest with this. Like, it's still a mixed emotions relationship that I've got with it, and part of you, when you stop, you're trying to figure out who you are, and I still am, like, without it. So the natural reaction, it's like an elastic band. I want to run away from it as much as possible, and that's difficult to do when 90% of my business revolves around gymnastics, and it still does. And the content that you'll see I'm still posting is gymnastics. And now that I've had a little bit of conflict with that over the last couple of years, because yeah, it's making me a lot of money. I'm incredibly successful, but it was easier to tell my stories and be myself when I was training to be the best in the world at the sport. And now I'm just dipping in and out, and like, I'm not as fit. My body hurts every time I film. Yeah, like, you sort of want to try to figure out who you are, so you don't really want to. I just stepped away from it, and that's still an ongoing process now. And but when I really sit and reflect, like, of course I love the sport. It's still the best sport in the world to me, and I still want to be on this path of like innovating it and changing it, and being a role model within the sport still. But yeah, it's I don't know whether you feel the same. I struggle to watch the World Championships, I struggled.
I do ask
for a time. Like, I can watch it, and I really support the lads, our friends, but I struggle to sit for 4 hours and watch a competition.
Do you struggle because, like, you have any kind of like resentment type or regret type emotion? Because I've sat with other like teammates of ours and had conversations with them, and like seen it in their eyes that they don't watch it because of the pain they've got inside of them. Or is it genuinely like, I watch gymnastics now and I get bored stiff, and 5 minutes in I turn it off? Is it that? And
Both.
I'm really glad I've got to that point, because that's such a cool position to be in. Because I did, like, the worst it ever got for me was watching that World Championships in Nanjing in 2014. I watched it in a room on my own. That's the worst comp. Like, Rio was actually okay. It was that World Championships was the hardest one for me to watch. But since then, like, yeah, especially since I retired, it's more that I've exhausted that part of my life, so it doesn't interest me or excite me, if that makes sense.
More the latter, like you say. Okay. I think a little bit initially, and still you have that little thing of, God, is that what people are doing on high bar nowadays? Like, do you remember what me and Sam were doing? Do you know what I mean? It's like the era that I was in was different, you know, like, and you sort of think, yeah, I probably could have won gold there.
But you can only compete against what you compete against, can't you?
It's just intrusive. It's thoughts that are not real, like, that your brain just comes up with. And I think now I'm so that far removed, and it's been enough time where I don't have any resentment. I just think, I hope the boys win. And I hope they do really well. But I'm bored, man.
Yeah.
It's like, was that really us doing that? I understand, and I think I'm still, my whole journey, I think, when I really take a step back and look at it, was about putting gymnastics on the map. And like, you know, my channel's up to 400 million views now of the sport, and I'm still passionate about, when I sit down and I go, yeah, I can see why this in mainstream still, it is boring. Do you know what I mean? So what does the sport need to do, and what the next 2 decades, 20 years, how can we turn it into a spectacle where actually me and you, who did the sport our whole lives, want to watch it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm the same as you, bro. Yeah. And it's interesting, innit? It's
you know, how old were you when you had made the decision in your head that you'd retired? So not officially announced it, when you'd like really, like if you think back, when I clearly made that decision, that's it. How old were you at that point?
24.
So 24 is really young. Do you know what I mean? 24 to be retiring.
24, 25, 24.
And how do you ever look back and think, wow, I had so many years left? Does the neck injury, does that still cause you like?
Yeah. I think do you know what?
Does it still affect your life, the neck injury?
Yeah, it does. My neck still affects my life, and it does when I have big days filming gymnastics videos. Gymnastics affects my neck, but like, I'm sure that would settle if I was consistently training and healthy. But me, Luke, and Ash, I mean, you see us mostly doing some crazy stuff. Like, we go in once a week. I'm not trained. I'm light still. End up throwing a load of silly stuff for content, and then the next day I feel like I've been hit by a bus, and my neck flares up like frequently.
Right. Okay.
So it does. But not doing normal life. That's like unusual to do the stuff that we do on camera, but I have to keep an eye on that. But me having to retire from an injury and it being taken away from me without like really coming to peace with it, and it being my decision, was like made what I believe it just 10 times harder. And it's like, if people listening to this seriously do something that they love to do, like love to do it, and I'm going to tell you today, right from tomorrow, you're not allowed. It's not that you physically can't, like you can't do it. Sorry, you can't do it. That to come to terms with mentally is just so hard. And I think it's hard to retire even if you know, like your journey was like, yeah, I'm probably at peace with retirement now. But that's still impossibly, like so challenging. But to then have it taken away from you, I think if it was still up to me, I would still be doing it. Yeah. I'd still be, because I freaking loved it, man. Yeah. And it's same as you. And then like, yeah, I think it just takes time, and it's like a roller coaster. You sort of like, some weeks you're like, God, you know what, I'm so proud of my career, which I should be, and you should be, and I'm so grateful that I got to experience that, and I've got a great life. And then other weeks it's like, I hate that this neck ruined my career, didn't allow me to fulfill my potential. I knew I could have done more. I wanted to win Olympics. Like, I'm so unhappy. It's just like those extreme emotions. Right, okay. I still get them week to week. And I just think it takes time and trying to put your energy and feeling that, I think because you don't feel the same purpose, or it takes you a long time to find something that fills you with the same. Yeah. It was so simple. I woke up every day and I did everything to be the best gymnast in the world. Yeah. My life was, for 20 years, so easy. And then, you know, the injuries come along, but even when they do, it's hell for 6 months because you have to rehab it, but you still know that you'll get back, because we did, and you get to do it again, so just hang in there. Whereas now it's like there's no rehab time. There's just like, now you have to figure it out. You have to keep going forward. So, I mean, we're probably speaking inside each other's brains here, because we're still experiencing it. It's so hard, and not many people talk about this, you know? It's
interesting what you said in the beginning when you were telling me about going on Dancing on Ice, and how, you know, you experienced that for 9 weeks and you got those feelings of like you were walking out to do a competition again. You got those nerves, that adrenaline, the crowd was there, you got that feedback. Do you think in some ways that was your comeback? That was, you got those feelings and you realised, oh, that's not for me anymore. Yeah. Like, you needed to answer that question in some, because there's been a lot of like our teammates that have spoke to me about. I sat in a pub like not far away from here a couple of years ago with someone, I'll tell you who it is afterwards, that said, I'm making a comeback. And I was like, what? Like, and they've been retired for a long time. And I couldn't believe it.
Do I know him? Can I guess?
Yeah, you wouldn't know him. But like, I think like I did an episode on that recently. If I was going to make a comeback, what would I do? Because I'd watched the Conor McGregor documentary. And it's the first time I've been like, oh my God, I want to go
every
to
time I watch Conor's things, I'm like, right, my next
But I was
fight.
like, I want to go to the gym and like train, you know. But I went to the gym, I trained, and I went, nah, there's no way.
Yeah.
Was it a bit of that, do you think, for you, you know, afterwards?
By the way, I still have those thoughts a lot, and I've like considered it a lot, because you still like, no matter, even when things are good, you're just like, so much missing. And I'm exactly the same.
Right.
I know if I'd train for a week, I'd have to be like, when my neck flares up in the ways that it hurts the nerves, I'm screwed. Like, I can't like do normal life then, and it takes 2 weeks for it. And I can take painkillers and anti-inflams, but I can't really. There's nothing I can do other than, because you know, it holds your head on your shoulders, and sleep. You think sleep and rest is the best thing. Sleep's the freaking worst.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning worse because of depending on how you've laid. But that reminds me, it's like, no, there's a reason that you stop. Just freaking chill out. But I think I needed that. That show gave me a lot, even though there's lots of bits that I didn't really enjoy, and it was tough. Like, I remember finishing, and it was like I burst into tears just with relief that final week was almost harder than any of we've done in gymnastics. Like, maybe not physically, but like emotionally, you're having to try and like learn. We skated 3 times on the ice 6 hours a day. We're having to try and learn 3 routines. The pressure of it being the final and this and that and loads of people to please and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I felt like my head was going to explode.
Yeah.
But you're right, that was probably I ticked the box again, and just the grateful realisation that, you know what, you thought you were desperate for this for 2 years since you retired, but you're not. Yeah. Like, you're fine without it. And I keep having conversations like this with athletes and influencers that I meet, and there was one, this girl called Cece. I was in Malta last week, and we were having a similar conversation. She just goes, she was French, she just goes, yeah, but Nile, you got to do it. You know, it's like we always say, yeah, but I've had this euphoria, and now like I feel like my life without it, and accepting that my life without it is just not going to be as good in layman's terms. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, but we got it. Yeah. Like, not many people, well, less than 0.1% of the population get to experience that. So when I'm in that like headspace, it's like, yeah, man, stop whinging that you can't get it again. Just be grateful that you got it. But we got to perform in front of 20,000 people at the Olympics on the biggest scale, and did well and enjoyed it and got the buzz. It's like, stop trying to freaking like get it again. Just be happy that you got to experience it.
It's almost like that relentlessness of always going for the next thing. It just never. It takes a while for you to stop doing that. Do you know what I mean?
As well, but when I won as well, it wasn't, because I think where you might have a similar experience of life. I've extreme highs and extreme lows, and when you're in the dumps, when you broke your neck and you're struggling, it's the hardest thing in the world. And when you've won the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics, you feel like a god. Like, that extremeness, it's like all ego. It's not pure like yourself, your soul. And when I won, it was like, I wasn't buzzing for 4 weeks and thinking I'm the man. I've just won dancing on ice. Let's make a load of money. Like, I'm more famous. It was just like, the next day I was like, right, let's just get on. Like, Hermione, what do you want to do today? Do you know what I mean? I wasn't like so enthralled and like loving it. It was just kind of like, I'm proud of that sound. Let's move on.
But that probably means that you did that show at the right time. Yeah. You had enough maturity and life experience, and you'd been through that process so many times of like having that extreme high. You kind of knew what it was now.
100%. And when you're 20 and you do the Olympics, like, I mean, I remember partying for 12 weeks straight, just like 4 times a week, because you've had this thing, and it's like, oh my God, I'm now getting attention, and girls want to talk to me, and like drinking alcohol feels good. And this time, but you're right, and you learn a bit more each time that it's just, that's what that is, and just that was sick and you loved it. But it's not real life. Yeah. It's not real life, is it? Do you know what I mean? You've got to be able to just, that was cool, but let's just live in, like, let's just come back to reality a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Big time, man.
But you're right. I'm probably, that may be the 10th time that I've experienced that elation. So it's like, yeah, I've been here before. That were nice, but let's empty the dishwasher and go to bloody Tesco and buy food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just move on. But
The last one on gymnastics then. Was there a period of time towards the end of your career where your health was deteriorating a little bit and your lifestyle choices was overlapping with the gymnastics and they were in conflict with each other? Because I can remember being told by someone that, I think it was maybe in the lead up to like the Commonwealth Games, they were saying he's not really doing the training he used to do. Like he's like pulling it out sometimes, but maybe once here and there. And then I watched you go to the Commonwealth Games and smash the Commonwealth Games. And it was almost like those people were saying he kind of fluked it. In that he didn't do the work he used to do, but he was still so good that he could pull it off. But then if I think about the time after that Worlds in 2018, you did amazing that Worlds. Did you come 5th or 6th?
no, so like I didn't actually do that one.
Was it the 2017? So
The one before.
that? Okay,
the one before.
right.
But okay, this is such a good question, by the way, because I'm thinking back to how I was. The conflict of lifestyle choices changed after the Olympics for me. So it wasn't that I'd reached my peak. It was just sort of, I struggled to mentally cope with that experience, and particularly winning a medal. And it was sort of like, I think subconsciously I'd made it. Do you know what I mean? Like not knowing I was like that back when I was 20 years old, but I've got every medal at this point. I've got them all. Like when I was 17 and I'd never done a major, tell me that I'm going to win European, Commonwealth, World and Olympic medals, then that is the greatest career that I could ever wish for. I'd done it at 20. So I found it harder to say no to a drink or to a party, or like, do you really need to eat the way you've been eating? Just the discipline sort of my lifestyle, just, I remember it just dropping a bit.
Right.
And then I had a bad ankle injury the 6 months later, which same as, not as bad as yours, but I snapped the outside 3 ligaments, and that took my lifestyle choices to the next level, particularly with partying. And I just thought I could get away with it. So like every Saturday was a bender. It wasn't like a let's go out for 5 drinks, have a nice night, go home. It was 6 a.m. job, 7 a.m. job. I knew it was affecting my training and my recovery all the way up until Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'd probably have a good back end of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'd just rinse and repeat that cycle and I thought that was fine. In my head, I was like, you could still be Olympic champion and do this. Like, that's how sort of delusional you are. But in the periods of injury, like, your biggest excitement of that week is partying on Saturday, and I was single and I was famous and I had money. So it was like...
Do you feel like that period of your life there where you were still training as a professional athlete, doing an incredibly difficult sport, and your lifestyle choices were probably of someone that wasn't doing that, do you think that played a role in how early you ended up retiring? Or do you think, was it just a freak accident that just... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but
do you ever have that conversation with yourself?
Look, do you know what, right? If I'd have been the ultimate professional, and if I'd have been a good boy, you know what I'm trying to say? Maybe I wouldn't have had the injuries. Maybe, but I look back with zero regrets.
And that also is, it's not you, is it?
No, exactly.
And I'm probably a perfect example of someone that lived the most professional lifestyle.
Yeah.
And ended up in a similar position.
Yeah, I think you just want to be going through it, because it's a very strange way to exist. Like what the life we had, you just want to be going through it, and for me personally, just still laughing and trying to keep sane and having a good time. That was like what I tried to do, and I'm a very social animal, so I found it hard to behave myself at times, which I probably should have done. But I was, for the most part, mate, I was a professional, and you know I was, and I think I was fit, I was strong, I was healthy, I did what I needed to do. Maybe towards, I have a different view on the way you described my Commonwealth Games experience. I think I was doing less in the gym, but it was so efficient. Like I really was in tune with my body, and like maybe there was word around that, and you saw me on a squad, and I'd been, you know, like
I never saw any of that. That was from
like,
other people, and I was listening to it because whenever
I did do less.
Whenever I'd see people would want to talk about you because we're close.
Yeah.
So I would listen to it. Do you know what I mean? I'd listen and I cared about you. So I'd go, I wonder is he training less? What's he doing? What's his lifestyle like?
I did less. And, you know, I was still like a bit loose from my lifestyle, but nowhere near as bad as like freaking going to oblivion and partying like I used to. And I feel like I found a nice little formula, and just I had unbelievable confidence that I was doing the right thing, and it did show in my competition results, even when I knew like, he's saying that, like he's saying,
I'd imagine you were aware of that.
Oh gosh, yeah, because you're in this bubble, and it's like, you know, people are talking, and I remember going to the English, so in the run up to that, and I came down with a bit of flu, so I wasn't feeling good in the morning. Did P-bars, high bar, and then when, like, I don't know, you feel like you've got completely nothing. I said, Dave, there's no way I'm going on that floor and carrying on. But I won gold and silver on P-bars, high bar, so I did all right routines, and then everyone was like, he's not done a thing. And then I couldn't do pommel at the time because of my hand. And I went to the British champs in Liverpool and won 6 gold medals. Do you know what I mean? And scored, I think, just under 74 without a pommel routine. So, like, at the time, if I would have done a pommel, I'd have probably pushed 87, 88, which all round was winning the world championships. So I was like, right, I'm fucking on it. Went to Commonwealths, nailed it. So I don't think...
Do you know what upsets me about that? Is that I feel like those conversations, you being aware of knowing that people are saying, he's not training as much, that for me is like, it's very much the vultures swarming and going, he might have a wobble. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of, you know how the political world of sport works and how invested personal coaches are with their athletes and how that game is played. And what's sad about that is that it wasn't really, are you okay? Are you all right? Can we help you? It was like, I'd imagine, I don't know, I wasn't there. I'd imagine the conversations were more like, what's going on? What are you doing wrong? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you going out?
100%. But I think as well, you got to remember that, like, I was in peak business and YouTube mode then as well. Like, bro, peak. Like, it was incredibly exciting for me, but I can understand why people the gymnastics environment are worried about me, because it's like, he's a hybrid, mate. He's different. Like, what he's doing is not normal. We don't just have him in the gym and being a professional athlete. He's now all of this. But I felt like I could just juggle it. It was fine. Like they fed into each other positively for me. I was like, this is making me a better gymnast because I'm more accountable to telling my story to the world. And being a better gymnast is making me a better vlogger or YouTuber or businessman. So, but I could understand, and like, I'm a different character where I knew that noise was there, and I completely agree with what you're saying, but it fueled me.
Right.
For some, and you probably could point at the characters to go, like, start filling themselves with self-doubt. Am I doing enough? Are they right? Like, what if? Like, blah, 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 where I was like, go on and tell me I can't fucking do it. And I'm just going to, and I'm going to, like, prove you wrong. Then, so after, you know, I do remember feeling, I think it was the Commonwealth Games was sort of the start of the end. It wasn't that I was, like, arrogantly changing who I was, but I'd felt, this sounds arrogant, like godlike. Right. You know, at that period in my life, I was like, I can do and achieve and be anything. Like, I think you said it on one of your podcasts, like the belief that I had in myself was just so high, and confidence, which was probably unhealthy. And I think that, like, looking back at that period, like, everything that was going on, it was like a ticking time bomb, I think, for me. And then maybe 3 weeks after Commonwealth Games, that's when the first time my neck went, and I was doing Dimitrenko on P-bars. For those that don't know, it's a front upright double back, and I had 2 weeks resting, couldn't train properly, and I think that was the first time my disc had, like, bulged and damaged the nerve, and it was horrible. So not a lot of people know that, so it was actually 10 months before I actually had any surgery. So that's where the issues started, and then this was a bit of a struggle, getting over it. I had an epidural, missed out on Europeans. You know, because at that year I thought, I'm going to win the Commonwealths, I'm going to win the Europeans, I'm going to win the World Championships all in 2018, and I'm going to be Sports Personality of the Year. Like, bro, that was like, that is happening.
I believe you.
That is happening. And you know what I was like? And I could see it. So then, the next stop that. And then I got back for 2018, and I was actually in really good shape. Like, really exciting. I even added a few more skills, and I had a pommel routine that was going to score more than 12, which it did. And I snapped my finger on a tip out in the control comp the week before. So again, that was a big punch in the face, and then I ended up not going. And then, ran past Christmas, and February I had my neck surgery. So that whole period, I was like a god. And then slowly, I was like, oh, and then the surgery just like fell off a cliff, and that's when all the challenges started. But I think I was still committed to being a professional athlete.
Yeah.
It was difficult to cope with what was going on with me, but I did it well, considering like the environment in my life, and I drank too much probably. But like I felt like I juggled it well, and maybe you look back and hindsight's wonderful if I didn't do this and didn't do that, but I don't regret anything really, mate.
I think for me, like, I've known you since you were 8 or 9. You've just always been one of the, it's everything or nothing. You're one of those type of characters. So you were probably never going to have a real long, consistent career. Yeah. You know, like someone maybe like Christian or James Hall, like, they're so consistent. With you, it was always everything or like nothing all the time.
I can't live in grey. It's black or white, mate. Yeah. I don't know how to live in grey. And that's what I've realised, which I've tried to fight a lot. It's just like, that's who I am. That
leads me on to my next question. And my next question is, we had a conversation in COVID time. I think it was the summer of 2020, and we were on the phone. I'd not seen you for a while, and we chatted on the phone. And you said something to me that is like one of the things that someone said to me that stuck with me the most ever in my life.
Really?
You said to me, like, do you know what, mate? You know how everybody says you've got to find the balance? Well, screw the balance. That's not me. And I was like, whoa. And at the time, I'd been on a process of going through my own mental health stuff. I can remember coming off the phone and thinking, whoa, that's like the most dangerous thing someone said to me. I was like, I feel like he's got a long way to go yet. Saying something like that. So my question is, how do you feel about that now? Because it feels like you were kind of coming on to then in that last conversation we just had, that you were going to maybe say that I still don't believe in the balance of things. Do you know what I mean?
I think this is just about being self-aware. Like, I'm trying to think of a really good example to give you, but like, you know, it's just like double down on your strengths. Like, if in English you can write but you can't read, it's like, why did they have to teach you to learn how to really read good when you struggle so much with it, when you're just a brilliant writer? Or like that, that's a bad example.
Yeah.
But I think I've always, same as you, been told, now you'll be great if you just find some balance. You need to have a balanced diet, a balanced lifestyle. Don't do too much of something, just balance. And I tried so hard, and I listened when I was in my teenagers and like going into being a young adult. And I think looking back now, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, mate. I can't do it. And that's all right. What I've learned to go is, that's freaking fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, because you didn't become an Olympic medalist in gymnastics from being balanced. You did it from being the hardest worker in the gym, obsessive, everything. You didn't become a successful YouTuber and businessman from being balanced and grey. It was black and white. So yeah, maybe there's some roads and routes that are not good for you, which I've discovered. You know, like horrific time gambling. I knew I partied too much. I started, you know, like I had it with food. Like periods of time I couldn't stop binge eating, and like was obsessed with that. I smoked nicotine. Like, track record says it's impossible for me to find balance. Yeah. But now I focus my energy on not trying to combat that and fight it, just accept who I am and learn how to channel it in the right areas.
Okay, right.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's channeling my
and
knowing that I'm
things.
being extreme now. Like I told you, started running. Like I don't just go for I started off with a little mile jog. I'm now running 5Ks. I want to run a 10K. I'm running like 5 times a week. I'll probably do a marathon because that's better than gambling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I know, like, and also understanding what doors you're open and where you're going. Like, if we're partying, mate, I know, right, I've opened that door. I'm probably going to go to oblivion. I'm going to feel anxious and probably low tomorrow. But I made the bed. Just own it. Get on with it.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? That's sort of how I operate now. And I can see when I'm drifting down a path and just try and check myself and just veer directions and communicate and be honest with myself. And it's easy to just let yourself do that for me. Just drift off and, I'll drink a bit too much for a few weeks because I golf a lot and I have some pints.
Do you still lean into those vices?
Oh, yeah, gosh, all the time. And it's difficult. And it's harder when you don't have the clear purpose of being an athlete. I found it more difficult after retirement. I think there was a little bit of more extremeness to it when you were an athlete because you're so disciplined, so you just need like a pressure cooker that explodes. Like party, go crazy, and then back to my life, and then party, go. So now it's like, it's a bit less extreme, but it's easier for me to drift because I don't have training tomorrow. And that's difficult to come to. I don't have to go to bed at 11. I'll end up falling into habits of sleeping at 2 a.m. and not getting enough, and then after a week or two, I'm depressed, and I think, right, you've let that happen. It's like a game, mate. It's like a game. But I said it in my TED talk, and it's in my book. Fuck balance. For me, that's my motto. But because it's made you who you are, but also you know who it could make you, and that's not a nice person. So just keeping it in check and thinking about it all the time, which might not work for you, but also when you heard me say it, maybe that's like something that you needed to hear and maybe would have worked for you, but it was just scary to comprehend.
Yeah, I think
which it still is. I think
around that time, I was going through a process, and I can remember coming to visit you in 2019, and
I remember that.
I completely understand.
I remember that.
Yeah, I completely understand all the roads you've been down.
That was a bad time. That
I can remember 2019. It was probably around April, May. I'd come to see you. I'd gone to see Jaron. I'd trained in the gym.
Yeah.
There was a few things that happened that weekend. Like one thing that was interesting was that we were training in the gym, and I was still trying to come back at that point. I was like trying to make a comeback, and I was being the ultimate professional and stuff. And there was a couple of younger lads in the gym, and you were filming a video, and you were like, "Do you want to be in the video?" I was like, "No, I'm fine, mate." And I was watching them, they were watching you, and I was like, "Oh, how do you feel about him doing these videos?" And they were like, "Oh, it's nice, isn't it? He gets to do what he wants." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting," because like they were like they train with you all the time. And then I went to your apartment. You took me up to your apartment. And the first time I'd seen it, like your penthouse apartment, and you took me around. I'm sure you remember it.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And you said, "What do you think?" And I went, "This scares the hell out of me."
Yeah, I remember you saying
I said,
that,
"This is too much." And you went, "What do you mean? Everyone loves it." And I was like, "No, this is too much. Like, I wouldn't be able to handle this." And I think what happened was that there was just like, I just saw myself in you. And the next day I went home and I went into the gym and I just ended up shouting at Sergey for 4 hours. And it was because I felt angry that like I saw so much of myself in you, and like I feel like I could have gone down that road. You know what I mean? Like I could have easily gone down that road, and like there was maybe people around me that didn't have my best interest in heart, mainly in terms of like British Gymnastics at that time. And I felt like they'd made the same mistakes with me, the same made with you. But actually what was happening was you helped me in that you just kind of like almost held up a mirror to me. I saw myself, and 2 months later, I admitted that I had a problem, and then I ended up in therapy. So actually, like, that experience with you was a massive, like, point in the road for me to, like, realise that I was not in a good place and I had problems. And you would have, I'm sure you would have known that about me at that time.
Yeah,
I imagine people talked about it and said it when I wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? But
for sure. It's hard to look in. It's probably easy to spot in other people. It's scary to admit and ask for help, or like just and there's a number of reasons for that, and I think a lot of them is particularly when you got the job that we have. And you've got gymnastics where you spend your whole life finding a solution. So we live our existence failing. It's like learning a gymnastics skill is just 99% failure until you do it. You know, I always say, like, now I introduce myself in talks like I'm Nile Wilson and I couldn't do anything until I could. But like that process. So then when you've got like something going on up here, it's like, well, I need a solution for this. I feel a bit guilty and shameful that, it doesn't make sense to me, where I was like, my life's really good, but I feel like this. So I'm not going to like visit that, and I'm probably not going to tell anyone about that. And I don't know how to put it into words how I'm feeling. But maybe that powerful experience, and it was the same for me. It's just when you find someone that can speak your language.
Yeah.
And we didn't necessarily talk about mental health that weekend, but it was maybe like you say, it was holding up a mirror.
It was. That's all it was doing for me. Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I remember that period when you did visit was definitely a bad period for me, because I was still, if it was around that time, I was still dealing with my neck, and that was all a bit of a blur, and it took me a while to ask for help as well. I don't know whether it was before or after I did, but it's super scary, man. It's super scary, and the more, we're talking about it now, I think it's fantastic if it can give courage to people to actually do that.
Yeah.
And go,
it's tough, isn't it? Because it's such a flippant comment, like, just talk. And it's like, well, not everyone's got someone to talk to. And I was so lucky in that, like, I got caught in this net, and I got steered in the right direction to end up to go and have therapy, which is expensive. If you're just a lad,
oh gosh, yeah,
and you've got no one around you, you can't do that. Like it's such a flippant comment. Just talk. That's not easy. Like, I've sat on the edge of my bed, like, tears running down my face, crippled with anxiety, to pick up the phone to tell someone, I feel like it again, I don't know what to do. Do you know what I mean? Like
and we've got great people, opportunity, and great people in our life and you've got to find the right person. But what I will say is it's better to just say something to the wrong person, or not the wrong person, but you need someone to really help. They just want to sit and listen and go, I understand, it's okay.
Yeah.
Tough, and I'm sure you've had bad experiences talking to the wrong person, where it's like, pull yourself together. People that don't get it, which I know you've said this before, and I would have said before I'd experienced anything personally, you can't connect, so you think it's not real. Yeah. It's like, well, I'm a positive guy. If I think positively enough, good things will happen. Well, when you've got depression and anxiety, that don't work like that. And I was like, well, I don't know. But that's true. So I hate the notion of someone's built up so much courage to go, I need help, I'm not good, and they pick the wrong person to do it to. They won't necessarily be nasty to them, but they just go, come on, you're all right, crack on, it's fine. They just don't know what to do. So I would say, if that is you and you have done that and it's made it worse, just please hang in there and try and find out who your bubble of people is that you can go to, or that's maybe like reach out to someone online or Instagram that talk about this, have experienced it. Like, I would never, and I love it a bit, and she'll be listening to this, I wouldn't call my mum to talk about my mental health.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. I'd call you. There's a group of people that I know, but they're going to get what I'm saying here, and I just need to offload, and they probably know they just need to listen, and it'll make them feel better. Like, that's it. Whereas my mum would try to fix, well, Niall, this, you need to sort this out, and it's like, nah, ma, I don't. So find your people, and it can sometimes be a bit of a tough process, because you're so scared to try.
Yeah.
And if you try to the wrong person, that'll just put you off even more and make you feel worse. But I'd encourage people, like I say, just to keep going with it and be proud that you were brave enough to go, I'm not all right. And it doesn't act like it's difficult for men. It's harder for men. Not that women experience not as painful experiences, but women are just better about talking emotions. Yeah. Talking about emotions, they just are.
Look, even in the sense that, like, women are a lot better, generally speaking, at keeping in touch with their family or their friends. Whereas, like, I've got loads of mates that probably would go the whole week without seeing a mate or talking to their parents or their brothers and sisters. And you could end up feeling pretty isolated that way, you know. I think the cool thing that did come out of, I think it was when my granddad passed away. So nothing to do with mental health, but it was like a positive of me being open and talking to a lot of people about what I'd gone through a few years before, is that I had about 20 lads, genuinely 20 lads, some of which I've not seen for 2 or 3 years, all privately message me and say, hey mate, I'm really sorry to hear about your granddad, but if you ever want to go for a walk or a coffee, just let me know. And like, it wasn't on a post, it was privately, no one needed to see it. And I was like, I think that's the positive that I'm seeing of people coming out the last 4 or 5 years and talking about it. It's that lads are more aware of it and actually want to help, which is a really cool thing. And like, the amazing thing for me is that like, I'm sat next to you today because there was a period of my life where there was a handful of people in my life where it was a constant worry in my head that I'd walk around with, that if that I could get a phone call saying that person's not here and I wouldn't be 100% surprised. And I know that I was probably that person for other people. So the fact that like I can sit with you today, and for me, the positive of that is that like I feel like I've got like a real second chance. That's what it feels like. So I'm just grateful all of the time. Even like on the bad days, if you were to stop and ask me, like I said this to Sam yesterday, if you ask me if I'm enjoying it, I love it, man. I'm so happy to be alive. So like, give me the good and the bad. Like, it's great. I love it. It's really given me like in many ways, I think I've had a midlife crisis at 25.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to see whether I then end up with a yellow sports car at 50. But I think that's what happened. At 25, I started to ask these big questions about the world, and I just felt lost. I didn't know who the hell I was. And I've been on this journey of just trying to understand myself a little bit more.
What the best bit about now people talking is it's allowed us to sit here at 27, 20, nearly 30, with that second chance, but knowing that you know enough and that you're grateful to have had enough help that you probably... I'm confident I'm not going to go back there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? This is really, really deep, but people need to hear it, and it's like, if you've been there, you know it's incredibly freaking scary, man, and you don't really see how you get out just through like knowledge, self-awareness, hard work, practice. It doesn't mean like, we're not out of the woods, mate. Like, I'm sure I feel depressed all the freaking time, all the time, without even being able to pinpoint like what are the 5-10 things that I've maybe let slip in the last few weeks that have just made. Some days it's just like, I have no dopamine at all. I feel sad.
Yeah.
It's like, God, why is it so much hard work just to feel all right? Do you know what I mean? But then I know, like, the things that I can actively do, probably a little bit of an understanding most of the time why I'm here, who I need to talk to, just write it out. But I'm confident that I know enough about myself and mental health as a topic, and friends that have been through it, and that I've got people in life, that I'm never going back there. Like, I'm never going back down there. And that's empowering, even though you will live a life of struggle and some days are tough. And
I believe you. Like, I've got one of my best mates who has, he's struggled with like his own battles for years. And I went to see him a few months ago, and it was the first time that I've seen him in a long time that I've left and gone, I think you're going to be all right. You're going to be okay. And I know at the start of the year when my granddad passed away, there was a lot of people around me that were really worried. I could tell. I can tell.
Well, that's a huge trigger.
I can tell what they're like when they're around me. They're on edge.
That's a huge trigger.
Are you okay? Like, my mum's messaging me all the time. I'm good. Yeah. And like, I knew I was good. I was like, I'm going to be fine. This is okay. I'm ready for this. And I think it was good for them to see me like handle that situation well and be like, oh, he actually is going to be okay. And it was great for me because I was like, no, like, I know I'm going to be okay now. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to struggle with depression, anxiety again in the future. But like I've experienced it enough to know that when I feel like that, it will go away. And I know the things I know what I have to do in my life to make sure that I'm ticking all of those boxes. And that tends to be okay. It sorts me out. And it's more than anything, it's just a real sense of curiosity about myself. Like, if I do something, I go, why did I do that? Not, you did that, you're an idiot. No, why did I do that? Oh, that's interesting. Next time, when a situation like that arises, I'll take one step back and go, normally I react like this. I'm going to wait and react slightly differently this time. And it's just been that for me, like a journey of self-discovery.
It's a journey and you're learning. And I've not experienced the, like, death yet. And it petrifies me because I know, like, I'm confident that I'll be bulletproof enough, like you have been, to be able to deal with that. But I know it could be an extremely powerful trigger just to just push the fuck it button a little bit. You know what I mean? Which I know where that leads, and sometimes I do lose control. But I think even if that happens, I just don't judge myself anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like that is the biggest thing. I think in healing a little bit, just trying your best to remove judgment, and you're not going to be perfect. And I think, hell, we've been judged our whole life. Yeah. You know, you imagine being the 10-year-old at the party where you've got a plate of chips and like 5 people on your way back to the table go, should you be eating them? Yeah. It's like, fuck off, I'm a 10-year-old kid. Yeah. Just because I'm a gymnast, and then you sign up to this unwritten contract that's, you are now a role model, you inspire kids, the next generation, to do sport. Well, it's like, hold on a minute, I just wanted to be the best gymnast in the world. I didn't know about all this. Yeah. And, you know, and can you imagine how difficult it is to go through the years of drinking, and I started smoking, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? They put you on a pedestal, don't you? Yeah. It's like, well, no, I'm human, and I think that people that can judge other people can judge themselves. Yeah. So that's the dangerous place to live, and I feel like I've got good at not at saying like there's a fine line. If I drink and smoke for 10 days, you know that's not a good idea. Yeah. But so do something about that. Yeah. But I don't judge myself for having a slip up or going crazy. It's just like, all right, like what we're gonna do now and move on.
And also, you are now the person that's most perfectly placed to help the next Nile that comes through and struggles with that.
So yeah, I'm writing a new book.
There you go.
I'm writing a new book, man. I think it's going to be called Lessons. But we've chatted about it before. It's I wish, or we always say it, you know, when you're doing Olympics, I wish there was a written rule book on what it's going to be like. Because maybe if I'd have spoke to someone, or I'd have read someone else's story, maybe I'd have been able to handle it better. And there isn't one. Well, and there's people talking about experiences, but I think with Lessons, my new one, it's going to be like chapters on all related to mental health and how to gain control, and like what not like telling people this is what you should do, but just my experience with it. Yeah. And if it can help, you know, I'm thinking of these young lads coming through now, or any sport, any athlete, and people, by the way, it's for everyone, but I'd just love for, you know, I'm thinking of talking about little Jake Jarman, like, for him not to experience the pain that maybe we have, because he don't need to. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'd love that book to maybe achieve that. And I think what I've learned as well is every single individual's got to go through their journey.
Yeah, you can tell someone till you're blue in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they have to imagine when we were down there, like, you're not going to be able to tell me how to figure this out. It's got to be them. Yeah. But I do believe, because I had the right people in my life that saved me, I do believe people and stories and having some knowledge of it can help, for sure.
I can remember being at your 18th birthday.
Oh, mate,
and being stood at the bar with your granddad, and him putting his arm around my shoulder saying, I'm worried about him drinking and stuff. I can remember, and I was drinking that night.
It's the first time I've ever drank in my life. He's worried about me.
And I was like...
Was I behaving like a nutter?
But I can remember thinking, he's going to be right. He's got good people around him because they care. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone has that, do they? So
no.
It just reminded me then. I can remember being at the bar, and then there's me getting everyone to play drinking games. Going, no worries, mate. And then getting everyone to play games afterwards. But
that night was like that was the first time I got drunk.
Yeah,
like really, because we didn't do it. My 18th night, we had loads of just the whole squad were there. I remember Keaton's been there, Purvis, like all my mates, like 100 people in a venue. I did it dressed to impress, so everyone's suited up, and it was the first time I got drunk. I'd got with a girl, and I went to the casino and came home with £200. The first time I went to the casino. So that night, that night was a pivotal moment.
It was, mate. Yeah.
For me.
I had a conversation with my grandma a couple of years ago at my sister's graduation, and my grandma's dad, my mum's dad, he was a gambler. He gambled his whole life away.
Yeah.
And she said to me, he was a good man, but he told me once, like he never told anyone else. He told me once that the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life was that I won my first bet. Yeah.
Maybe that night.
It stuck with me.
If that night,
it's quite funny, but do you know what I mean? Like
if my 18th birthday would have ended in me being sick for drinking too much, not getting with the girl, and going in the casino and losing money, maybe my entire life might have been a little bit different.
Nah.